Hey everyone, Scott Cunningham, aka Scott's Business. Today we're going to be talking about the blockchain platforms that you should be avoiding, social media platforms specifically. And the reason I want to talk about this is because I do a lot of different comprehensive reviews looking at all these different blockchain platforms, and I invest a lot of time, a lot of money even, to make sure that I fully rigorously test these platforms. I don't put a lot of time into the really small community ones or the ones that are poorly set up or what have you. But the ones that I give, a rigorous test, I end up putting a lot of time and effort and invest in. And a lot of times I end up losing my investment because they don't really come to fruition, or, they end up closing down, or it's a scam, right? So I want to talk to you guys about. First, we'll briefly touch on some of the platforms that I have previously not recommended and have closed down, just to put it in sort of perspective when I've been historically correct on this, and not to brag about being correct, but that I have some sort of insight as to where things are going for certain platforms. So previously, I have not recommended Hyperspace, Narrative, Editonial, and Touch Social. And there's probably a lot of other ones that I haven't actually double checked yet whether or not they've closed down, but these are all ones that I have previously not recommended, and I've put time and money in just to test them fairly, and they've ended up closing down, and all the people on there ended up losing all of their investments and all their time spent, and really just all that effort. Sola was one that I did like and I did use, and it ended up shutting down as well, unfortunately. But that was the only one that I had recommended, and it went under. More importantly, though, is not the platforms that go under. While you should be concerned because, for example, Narrative, I recently spoke on this, that they'd raised over $5 million at the time of the value, and they were doing $15 certifications for just verifying yourself, which most other platforms do for free, and they were selling niches, and they sold over 1,000. And with all that money, they somehow only gave out $1,500 worth of rewards before closing down. That's not a scam. I don't know what is. But we're going to be talking about legitimate 100% scams, as well as other, sketchy platforms that you want to really avoid. And I've talked about some of these in the past, but today we're going to dive into these platforms that you should really be on the lookout for. So we're going to be taking a look at Weku, BearShares, WhaleShares, DLive, which I've done countless videos on, Socialchains, and viability. And there may be more added to this list in the future. So, I may end up doing another update, or when I do my next comprehensive social review, there might be a lot more adding to this and ones that have closed down. So I might do a follow-up. But for now, we're going to look at these, and I'm going to explain to you exactly why you should be concerned. So first, we're going to take a look at WhaleShares. And I'm just going to be telling you this. Well, actually, I guess I can share my screen so you have an idea of what I'm talking about here. But the WhaleShares platform itself may or may not be fine today, but they've had a long history of a lot of problems. Now, I was on WhaleShares since its inception, and I invested quite a bit into the platform. I had probably almost close to 20,000 WhaleShare tokens. And I mean, naturally, they've gone way down in value, but there was the whole motivation for WhaleShares, right? It was that they wanted to make a better version of Steem, and they wanted to get rid of bots and all these different things. And yet when they started WhaleShares, all of the witnesses, and if you're not familiar, witnesses are the sort of authorities on the platform who have been voted by other people, and they're running nodes. They sort of make decisions for hard forks, so they have a lot of authority and influence on this platform. And yet, after campaigning on the idea that there would be no bots, a lot of the witnesses created their own bots. And what's worse is they didn't just have bots; they had specific coins that you had to buy into to spend on getting the upvotes from their upvote bots. So with Steem, I would just send a certain amount to a bot and then get an upvote. With this platform, they had me also go and buy coins that would change in value. So, you know, you could be buying a vote for a certain amount one day, and then it's going to cost more the next day, or cheaper, or whatever it happens to be. And what they ended up doing is they ended up saying, oh, you know what, bots are bad, we're stopping the bots. And this was maybe after 2-3 months, maybe longer, of running these bots. But what that ended up doing is when they discontinued that, all of those coins that they had sold to tons of people were now worth nothing. And you can't sell them because no one else is going to buy them, because there's no value to them anymore, because they can't do anything. So what ended up happening is people like myself, who had bought several of these coins, ended up screwed. I couldn't sell them. I couldn't even recoup any of my losses. I was basically more or less scammed. And whether or not that was the intention, that was the result. That I was screwed out of my money as a result of the witnesses of the platform, the authorities of the platform. And it's challenging because a lot of the evidence is so old that I couldn't get it. So, for example, a lot of the chats on Discord, etc., over a year old, were not saved. Mind you, I was able to get a lot of evidence for, I mean, it happened, but for people who don't believe me, etc., etc., you can go back, and I've linked a lot of posts where you can see that people were doing this in the past. And whether or not you believe that I bought in and I got scammed, you can see evidence, and I've provided evidence that this was happening in the past. And you can clearly see today that it is not happening, because it's not possible. You could try for yourself, but it's not possible today. Thus, quite simply, they discontinued it. And naturally, you can assume that they didn't make sure to go and pay everyone and get all of their coins back. No, they just discontinued them. Maybe they gave a certain amount of time. I wasn't made aware. I lost all my money. And the few that I can name off the top of my head, which you can see here, are the Milk token, Hairshare token, and FSTSH token. And it was by The Goon. He was running as Fiat Steem at the time. And you can see, like, I have some information on these people, but I'm not trying to like dox them or anything. It's not the thing. I don't think this was it might not have necessarily been malicious. It might have been malicious, but all the witnesses did this. So it was either like a platform thing, or I'm not totally sure. I mean, not every single witness had a bot, but every witness that did have a bot discontinued it around the same time. And it's concerning. It's concerning that this is even possible. And again, if you don't believe me, you can go back, and you can go way, way back into my Explorer, and you can look at the upvotes I received from these 3 people, and you can sort of see, well, why would he be getting crazy huge upvotes from these people? Is because I was testing out the bots on the platform, and I was testing them partially because I was curious, and partially because they said that there wasn't going to be any, and lo and behold, there was. And that is the story of WhaleShares, my friends. Make of it what you will. I've addressed this, and the current people and the current staff on WhaleShares say that this is no longer the case. There's no issues anymore. And while that's fine, I've got a sour taste in my mouth. You know, I don't trust it. I'm not going to get scammed by someone and then come back just because they said it's fine. That's foolish, right? Weku didn't scam me or really anyone, but they had a really poor setup in that they ended up having their platform abused by everyone else, which ended up massively screwing everyone and devaluing the coin. And essentially what happened, which you can actually see the detailed accounts from the actual staff in these linked posts, and they're not even active anymore, right? They're over a year old, so you can tell that even they've sort of given up on the platform. And while people still post on it, clearly there's not a lot of faith in it anymore. And I mean, mind you, just one quick thing for WhaleShares, there's only like 5,000 accounts on the platform. So like there's so few people using it that it's really not viable. I don't know what that number is for Weku because it wasn't available publicly as that I could find, but it's probably very similar, if not smaller, because the Weku coin today is worth a tiny fraction of what the WhaleShares coin is worth. So take that into account. But essentially what happened was, where Steem would lend you money to start you off, Weku just gave you money. So people were just making tons and tons of accounts. And eventually they were setting up bots to do this. And then they were taking all that money out, sending it to a central account, and then selling it to different people who wanted to power up. And they did this so much that, it became it was like an epidemic on the platform. And then they had to go and they were trying to go after anyone who bought them, but a lot of people bought them unknowingly. So it was this whole issue. And you can see all the links to them talking about it. And ever since then, the platform kind of died. Once Weku finally hit exchanges, it was worth nothing. Like the entirety of everything that I invested a decent amount into the platform, buying Weku with Steem, etc. I invested a decent enough amount, like maybe $200-$300, something like that. Like enough that it's like pretty unfortunate that I had to lose all that, because now that $200-$300 in the form of 14 or 15,000 Weku, I believe, is only worth like $1 or less. Because I tried to sell it on exchange and it was worth so little that I was like, you know what, I'll just keep this in case some miracle happens where, this platform bounces back. But here I am recommending you do not, because I lost a ton of money with this platform. They set it up really poorly. It seems that they're not even really, keeping it going very well anymore. Anyways, do not fall into the trap. And a good rule of thumb most of the time is just don't look for like alternatives to Steem, because the only reason that these platforms are even popping up is because what they're trying to do, and what Weku tried to do, and what WhaleShares tried to do, was the same thing at the beginning of Steem. If you were an early adopter, you were able to earn a lot of Steem. The difference here is Steem did very well and gained value, so those people made a lot of money. Weku and WhaleShares lost value. So if you came on early and invested a bunch early, you actually lost money instead of making money, because they were trying to rip off Steem, but they weren't really improving it, as you could see, where WhaleShares wasn't actually going to get rid of bots. They just wanted their own version of bots. They were just trying to get their own money. It was just very profit-based, from my opinion. And that's Weku and WhaleShares. Those are like the Steem alternative replicas. There's also BearShares, actually. We'll touch on the other Steem one. BearShares is another, basically the exact same as WhaleShares. The difference here with BearShares is I'm pretty sure it was a scam, like very purposefully. The co-founder shared on Weku and other platforms how they were cheated out of all of their money from the other co-founder, and that the person was using people's password recoveries to steal people's funds and accounts, etc. And it was just a huge mess. And even if that was a lie, at one point, BearShares eventually reset all of the accounts, all of your content, all of your money, everything to zero, deleted. I don't even have an account on BearShares because it was entirely deleted. Like, login doesn't work, everything's gone, my page is gone, nothing is there. Even if just that, they didn't try to rectify it. They didn't try to help people get their accounts. They didn't say, we'll give you the money that you previously had. They just said, nope, it was an accident. You can re-sign up if you want, or you cannot. And what that really says is, to me, is, yeah, we did this on purpose. Thanks for all of the money that you gave us. BearShares is probably the most egregious of a scam, because it was really just one person who did all of this, and it seemed very intentional. And then Weku, obviously not necessarily Weku trying to scam people, but it ended up just being an awful platform. And with WhaleShares, it seemed like maybe some of the witnesses were, some weren't. Maybe it wasn't the intention, but that's kind of what ended up being the result. Regardless, platforms that try to replicate Steem usually are in it for the money, and I wouldn't waste your time. Social chains, this is an interesting and weird one. I don't know how they're doing now. I mean, they deleted my account, unfortunately, and unsurprisingly. I did an interview with them, and they boasted how the platform was doing so well, and there were so many people posting all this stuff. So when I finally signed up, I found that there was no one on the platform. There was just a few staff, and like no one was posting. There was nothing going on at all. And having blatantly lied just to hype up the platform, in our interview, I never posted the interview. It was the only interview I've ever held and not posted due to them lying and trying to trick me and my audience into maybe joining the platform because we think it's doing well when it is in fact not. But what's really terrible about the platform is that there's absolutely no privacy, right? Every single person has to have full KYC, ID, you have to do a liveliness test, you have to do so much. And not only that, well, here's their reasoning. Their reasoning is that if everyone is fully verified, then we won't have bots and we won't have this and that. But it's like people value on anonymity, people have company accounts, people have, create accounts for their friends or whatever it might be. You eliminate all that and you restrict the platform so much. And the platform was so based on like centralization and approvals and such that you couldn't even change your profile picture without having a manual approval of it. That's right, a manual approval. So if the platform ever actually did grow, it would be impossible. Impossible. Someone makes a post, approved. Someone changes their profile picture, it's got to be approved. Ridiculous. And it took over a day with barely anyone on the platform. Crazy that they ever thought that that was going to work. So that's the only one I've ever held back in my entire life. I would do that again if someone lied and I found out before I ended up posting it. But this is basically a scam, or they're just harvesting data or whatever it might be. I just absolutely do not trust social chains at all. DLive, I've talked about this time and time again. Yes, it is being bought by TRON and it could be improved. However, I honestly don't think that's the case. I think that TRON is buying it because they think they're doing a good job, and they're buying it because they want to keep it going, not because they want to radically change it. And they want the influence that PewDiePie has on the platform because he said he would exclusively live stream on DLive. So thus, they're capitalizing on that, and that's probably why they bought the platform. And it's migrating blockchains for the third time, which is insane. Everyone on Steem who was abandoned from the platform hated that happened. I don't know if that'll happen with Lino. Probably not. They'll probably do a more graceful transition. But still, awful platform. One of the most restrictive platforms I've ever seen, using the guise of blockchain. But for example, on the Lino blockchain, the second blockchain it was on, it was never really using the blockchain. The Lino blockchain, and they were also said to be independent of each other, and that DLive existed on Lino, but you couldn't use Lino without DLive, and you couldn't use DLive without Lino. So what does that tell you? I don't think we're ever going to see anything again on Lino. I think Lino was the real issue, but the fact that DLive partnered with them says all it needs to say. And DLive has so many restrictions on their platform. Listen, I understand that they want it to be mainly for streamers to be able to earn, but all of their policies and restrictions apply to anyone with money on the platform. So myself, who put in like 2,000 Lino points, I can't get that back unless I've streamed for 3 days and 8 hours worth, I think was the number. Yeah, I see it right there. 3 days and 8 hours worth, which means that even if you own money on the platform and you put your own money in Only creators can actually withdraw money. It's not earn money, it's withdraw money, because the earning and the withdrawing is the same thing on their platform. So you can't even take your own money back unless you're a streamer. So that makes the amount of people who can actually get their money back extremely small. And again, I think it's because it's a scam. It's so that you can't get your money back. It's so that they keep your money. And the price is completely controlled by them and centralized. It's not on any exchanges, meaning at any time they could change the price and you wouldn't be the wiser. I've detailed this in previous videos. They sell their Lino points at different values on different places. Like if you buy it on your phone, it's going to cost another like 10 cents on top of everything you buy, I believe. Something like that. I've detailed it in a previous video, which is linked in here and here. But that's insane. And outside of the streamer, if you're a streamer, right? So you have to be a streamer and you put your money in, like this also applies to if you earn money, but we're saying for the fact of, the reason that I'm doing the example of whether or not you put money in is because outside of earning, even, I think it should be for both, but even outside of earning, if you can't access or control your own funds, then they're not your funds. They're DLives. Because outside of the streaming requirements, they also say you need a minimum of 4,250 to withdraw, meaning that my $20 or $30 worth of Lino, I would have to put in another $20, $30 to be able to just get my money back. And you have to be 16 or older. So if a 13-year-old who's allowed to buy it decides they want it back, well, no, you can't. And that makes sense for earning, right? Like they're not allowing anyone under the age of 16 to earn because it's like a job. That makes sense. But anyone of any age who puts their money into a platform should be able to get it back. Otherwise, you're stealing it from them, basically. You're scamming them. And the minimum requirement of 4,250 is just a huge number to make it even more challenging. And then outside of all of that, you also have to give them your government ID. So full KYC to get your own funds back. But none of these things are required to buy it. Meaning that it's really just seems like a scam to me. They make it easy as all hell to buy, but so challenging to get your money back. And they make it seem like it's just because it's for earning, but they have the same policies and rules applied for both. And now it's only streamers can even get their money back. So I think that's just insane. And I really hope that TRON fixes this. But again, I think that if a company were to buy another company, it's mostly because they like what they're doing and they're going to continue it and build on that. I don't think they're buying it because they want to radically change it and fix it. They probably don't even think it's broken. Tribe, other EOS platforms, and TRON platforms. Tribe was good-ish while it was good. They had approvals for every post, which I thought was insane. And they said eventually they would decentralize more, but it's been over 2 years now and that hasn't changed. Other EOS platforms have a lot of the same issues, and or the most important issue being that EOS platforms today are unusable in terms of blockchain transactions because the CPU usage for staked EOS right now. I have like 5 or 6 EOS, like around $20 worth of EOS, and I can't do any transactions because it's not enough. Who in their right mind would be going to a new platform that they've never used and having to put in $50 to $100 just to be able to make a single transaction? And then your CPU is too high again. You have to wait every 24 hours to do one single transaction. That would be insane. And I don't think anyone is going to do that. And I really don't recommend that you do, because I can't even get my money back. Because if I were to unstake, because right now my $20 isn't even enough to make one transaction. And this has been for over 3 months now. And say I unstaked, I couldn't get that either because I can't make a transaction. So I can't get that either. That money is just lost now. It's locked in. It's stuck. I'll never get that back unless they fix it. And even if they do fix it, who's to say that this won't happen again? It's been going on for months. So it's clearly not being solved very easily. I'm just finished a video that also talks about the other issues with TRON and EOS and why you should keep this stuff in mind. And you'll see that as well. And I'm going to link that in this before I end up posting this video. But most EOS and TRON applications are just gambling applications. They have a few games, but the games work as gambling games as well. It's really all just about gambling. It's not really about social media. So I would just stay far away from this unless you're actually trying to gamble. But I'm doing this in terms of social media. And yeah, like TRON actually has no social media applications that are currently actually working and effective. They're acquiring DLive. Maybe this could change, but currently, as of the time of posting this video and recording this, that is not the case. They're going to release more information January 15th. We'll see. And the last one that you should avoid is viability, just because it's basically been abandoned. There's no new stuff being posted. And if there is, it's like barely anything at all. No one is on this platform. You do have to spend Ethereum every time you post. So I totally recommend it. Like, don't go anywhere near this. You're just going to lose a bunch of money before you realize that no one's even on this platform. So don't waste your time. And yeah, and that's it for today. But you know, this is going to keep growing and there's going to be more to this. So I'll eventually do a follow-up. I don't want you guys wasting your time or money on platforms that are not there to serve you and actually be there to create genuine connections and connect you with other people and networking and social media as it should be. So that's all. That's everything for today. Let me know what you guys think. Is there any ones that I missed? Am I wrong on some of these? You tell me. I left a little bunch of questions at the end that you can ask yourself when evaluating a platform. Some of them would be like, does this platform require you to give them money to utilize its full features? So like Narrative, for example, didn't let you use the full ability of the platform unless you certified and you paid them money, and then they shut down and I lost my money. Does it have a history of abusing its users and not correcting the damage that was caused? BearShares, WhaleShares. Is the price of the currency controlled by them or the market? DLive. Has the platform been abused by its own users in the past and devalued the platform? Weku. Is the platform too centralized? Hyperspace was. So is DLive and a bunch of other ones, but I just give a little example of a few of them that I'm referring to when I ask the question. So, go through those questions, ask yourself those when you're looking at a new platform and you aren't sure, but you can also always refer to my comprehensive reviews that I update and put out new versions of every 3 to 4 months. It really depends, but my last one was put out about a month ago, and you can go and check that out. There has been a lot of changes since, but it's pretty accurate in terms of what I don't recommend and what I think is a safe bet. That can save you a lot of time and just act as sort of like a directory for you to see everything that's available. There's no other place where you can see as many possible links to all the different social platforms that exist and ones that are going to come out, as well as some different useful tools for you to check out and resources for you to check out. I highly recommend checking that out as well. But let me know if I'm wrong on any of these. Let me know if there's any that I'm missing. I love to hear feedback from you guys, and I always take that into consideration and will build on that for the next one, because this is a process. This is not finite. Things change. Other platforms do worse. Who knows, right? DLive might be amazing in 2 weeks from now. Who knows? We will find out. But anyways, let me know in the comments below. And as always, if you did watch to the very end of this video, make sure to comment #1ham in the comments below. I actually forgot to mention that in the past 2 videos. But you know, I've been sick and it's been a little bit since I'd made some videos, so I probably just got to get back into it. And now I'm sort of remembering the routine. Anyways, comment hashtag #1ham if you watched all the way to the end. And I really appreciate that you did. Thank you so much for watching. You are amazing. Have an amazing day. I'm Scott Cunningham, aka Scotty Business, signing off. Cheers.